Welcome to our first episode of our brand new podcast. My name's Kevin Shagru. I'm with my buddy Jerome Pedikauskas. How we doing, Jerome?
Doing well, Kevin. It's good to be with you, and hopefully we're starting something new and exciting here. And also want to give credit to our producer extraordinaire, producer Derek, who's making this all possible for us behind the scenes. And, we're going to sit here and talk a little Cleveland sports. I hope you guys enjoy it. Obviously, there's a lot of Cleveland sports podcasts out there. We hope that we're the cream of the crop, though, and you come to us and you enjoy our podcast here as well. So, this is something we both do all the time anyway, so why not see where we can take this?
Yeah. So we're roommates. We typically, get home from work and immediately start talking sports, whether it's Cleveland sports, college sports, hockey, whatever it might be. So thought might as well just put a couple mics in front of us and get it going. So we don't really have any projections of where this might go. We hope that this takes off at some point, but probably hoping to keep this to a once-a-week thing, see if it grows from there, maybe have it about an hour or so, give or take a few minutes, and go from there. So I kind of created a small outline of kind of just a few topics that we wanted to talk about in this episode. We're going to go over the Cavs' fast start and just kind of some unexpected or expected things that are going on in the NBA. And then talk a little bit about the NFL. Browns are on a bye week. Figured we'd go over the trade deadline. And then probably wrap it up with the college football rankings that just dropped. So why don't we start with the Cavs' fast start here? Obviously, we're a couple weeks in, Jerome. And I think in unexpected ways, but obviously great ways. I mean, the Cavs have been unbelievable with this 8-0 start.
Well, again, I think, you just hit the nail on the head. I mean, absolutely shocked that they're, I'll be the first to say I was extremely critical of the Cavs offseason. I thought they had a horrendous offseason. Said it didn't really work last year, so you ran the exact same thing back. And my whole thought process was, boy, they must think Kenny Atkinson could walk on water.
Right.
They must think he's Christ because, Lord, they brought him in. But guess what? So far, it's kind of been that way. And you're seeing, finally, we've been hearing about it for years and years. And finally, the Evan Mobley leap looks like it's a reality and not a fantasy of Cavs, front office and fans.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I mean, we look back to last season in particular. Obviously Darius Garland, kind of going back to the young players that we've drafted over the last 5 years, a huge disappointment last season. Somebody that I was high on when we drafted him. And I know we've kind of gone back and forth on our opinions there. I know you've been a little bit indifferent. You've loved him. You've hated him. I've tended to just kind of try to stay on that bandwagon. But yeah, I mean, he's finally coming around, especially, like I said, disappointing playoffs in particular. But he's looking like that guy. I mean, we saw him against the Milwaukee Bucks. Donovan had his turn in Milwaukee to hit the game winner. And then Darius just kind of took over those last 2 minutes the other night. And, we're staring at an 8-0 start. And the young players finally stepping up for us for sure.
And here's the thing with that, right? So Darius Garland last year, you're 100% right. He had what I considered a really bad year. I was super disappointed in him. He got the big contract, and he just seemed to. I mean, the kid had a rough year. From right away with the face injury and this and that. It just never materialized for him last year. But here's where I'm going to go right with that. You kind of look at the NBA regular season. A lot of people say it's meaningless. It's this, it's that, and there is some value to that, and there's some truth behind that.
Yeah, I mean, just look at Philadelphia right now. They don't care at all about the regular season.
You're 100% right. But what I look at is how do you do when you show up in the big moments? So what Darius Garland do so far this year? Well, let's see how he started. Okay, well, you go to Madison Square Garden, the world's most famous arena, the Mecca. 32 points, amazing fourth quarter.
Amazing.
Then yesterday, you have Donovan Mitchell, and if I'm not mistaken, I don't think he scored more than 4 points after the first quarter.
Yeah, I know he didn't even get to 15 points, and he's supposed to be the guy that we're counting on.
Right,
yeah.
14 points. Donovan let Darius take the show. Donovan let Darius take the show over last night. 39 points, and Mobley with some huge defensive plays down the stretch. And I think looking forward to the Cavaliers as a fan and for the Cavaliers as an organization, that has to make you excited. Has to make you excited because look at it. I mean, the last couple of years, it seemed like, okay, if Donovan Mitchell can't get a bucket, where are they going? How are they doing it? They're screwed. And that's basically what it was. Now this year, if Donovan could actually rely on Darius and Evan as true legit co-stars, man, the sky's the limit for this ball club.
Yeah, no, it 100% is. Because, I mean, you look at it, the big two questions going into the offseason, was obviously the number one was basically, are they going to ever get that 3-and-D wing that they want? Which obviously looks like Dean Wade has filled in great at the 3 spot. I kind of look at him as more of a 4, but if he's going to give us some size and versatility on the defensive end, I've got no problems with him, even when Max Strus comes back starting at the 3.
Right. I'm right there with you.
Yeah, and then the number 2, I'll classify this as, I guess, number 2 and 3, but it's generally the same question. Can Garland and Mitchell exist, and can Mobley and Allen exist? The big question was, going back to when you said about the Evan Mobley leap, basically what that leap was the offensive leap and being more physical in the post, but not only that, actually hitting some three-pointers. And they got to respect him now on the three-point line. If you leave him open, there's a pretty decent shot. He's going to knock it down, so you got to have somebody within a couple feet of him. And Jared Allen's, he's a walking 15 and 15, it seems like at this point, just absolutely dominating the paint. And this might even be the deepest team in basketball. When you look at it, I don't know how Atkinson's going to make this a 9 to 10 man rotation when you've got people that, Ty Jerome didn't even play last year, and he's been a great point guard. And then obviously when Strus comes back, you got to find minutes for Okoro still. They gave him that contract, so you kind of got to play him a little bit, whether he's a plus or minus on the offensive end. He's maybe a double plus on the defensive end. This is just a fun overall team to watch, and yeah, the fact that they've taken games in Milwaukee and New York right now, adding to their resume, it's incredible.
Right, absolutely. And like we said, the 8-0 has come against some pretty good ball clubs, like you just alluded. But just pulling up the numbers, and one thing that I looked at here, and that's what I have in front of me right now, is, okay, Donovan Mitchell averaging 23 points a game, Garland 20.5, Allen, like you said, 15 points, 11 rebounds. But what I really like is the early on here, Donovan, 29.8 minutes a game. Darius, 28.9. Mobley, 29.9. Like you said, Kenny's got a very deep team, and he's using all these guys, and that's really important because come playoff time, it's really good to have those guys fresh, and you saw they weren't last year. Some of our top guys didn't even play against Boston. I'm not saying they would have won the series against Boston. That'd be a little bit crazy of me, but I think they would have had a much better of a chance had, Donovan Mitchell played. But those guys obviously logged such heavy minutes in the regular season, and that killed them.
Oh, no, it 100% did. Not having Mitchell down the stretch there, he's the reason we even took a game in that Celtics series. He single-handedly won us game 2. And if you're looking at having him for any of those games in Cleveland, I think we maybe take one of them. But yeah, losing 5, like you said, I think we lose that series regardless. Maybe it goes to 6. I still don't see us taking that to 7. Now this year, I think it's a different story. Especially alluding to what you just said. The amount of minutes that they've been able to limit their star players to and still win by double digits and escape in New York and Milwaukee, it's been awesome.
Well, let me ask you something, because I have my opinion on this. I think in order for it to be qualified a successful season, I need to see them go to the Eastern Conference Finals. And I know some people might say that's a little overboard, that's a little overzealous. No, because you went first round, then you went second round. This team's good enough right now, I believe, to go to the third round. You have good pieces off the bench, like you pointed out. Karis LeVert, Strus is going to come back.
Right.
Your guy, and if you guys end up following this podcast, you'll learn Kevin's Isaac Okoro's biggest fan besides his 2 parents. Literally.
I like Isaac as a player. We've gotten into this debate before. I've just accepted him for who he is, and you still look at him as a number 5 overall pick, which is fair.
Yeah.
But I've accepted he's going to give you the A+ defense, and he's going to give you probably C-level offense. And that's what you're going to – he shot 39% from 3 last year. But, he's been – I think he's a decent rotational player. And
right. Point being, though, regardless, Kenny's got a deep team. Listen, they did what they did. They didn't do much. And I'll tell you, George Niang looks like he lost weight and he's come back a better player. And I'll tell you, it looks like they believe in Kenny. And I think part of that belief starts with, you look at guys like Karis LeVert and Jared Allen. They played with Kenny before.
Yeah,
so right away, that was actually a good hire by them in the sense that, hey, if J.A. likes Kenny, Karis likes Kenny, they could tell these other, hey, we believe in this coach because we both know this. Everybody knows this. And the NBA, if the players don't believe in the coach, it ain't going to be the players walking out the door. It's going to be the coach.
No, and you even see if players don't believe in coaches who have even won titles before. Frank Vogel got canned in L.A., what was it, a year after winning a title there? We've seen Coach of the Years get fired a year later. Monty Williams, Dwayne Casey. I mean, these are guys that literally won Coach of the Years and get fired within a year, maybe 2 years of winning that award. You know, as soon as you lose that locker room, I mean, it seems like you might have a week, maybe 2 to get it back, and if you don't get it back within then, it's done.
It does. It seems to not even matter. Sometimes you look at a guy like Adrian Griffin, won 30-13. Now they bring in a guy who I consider the most overrated NBA coach of all time, maybe, in Doc Rivers. But guess what? Giannis didn't like Adrian Griffin. See ya, Adrian. They're showing the door. It's not fair. And that's something we could go into later down the road.
Yeah.
But needless to say, the Cavs have been fun. Great start by them. And the city of Cleveland needs it right now. You know, tough Guardians exit in the ALCS. Browns have given us virtually nothing to cheer about this year. And so we need the Cavaliers right now if you're a Cleveland sports fan, and they're delivering. Shifting gears here, I guess we are going to go down that negative road.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Cleveland Browns and their 2-7 start. Okay, right away, I'm just going to get into it. I think most of the people who are Cleveland sports fan would agree with us. You make the worst trade in NFL history, and you're paying the price. That's what it comes down to.
I mean, it really is. It's as simple as that, and it stinks that, you know, we wasted 6 weeks of the season when we knew basically after week 3 that if there wasn't a change made at quarterback, that the season was basically going to plummet, which is exactly what it did. You know, Jameis gave us a great game against Baltimore. We got away with some stuff. I do think our old reliable Jim Donovan had a say in that game.
I agree 100%.
I really do. But I mean, other than that, it's been nothing but negative for this team. I really don't even know where to start. I mean, do you want to start with the trade deadline? Do you want to start with?
Well, I guess we can go. We're at the bye week, so it's a good point to give a mid-season recap.
It is.
And if I want to, and you're right in the fact we've gotten the whole Jameis Winston experience. We got a fantastic.
For 2 weeks, we really have.
We've gotten a fantastic game and then a horrendous game.
Yeah.
And the one thing I like about him, though, is he's willing to take shots down the field. Deshaun didn't seem to do that. And that's where I think if we want to go big picture with the Browns, I don't know how possibly they, under any circumstances, whether he's healthy or not, they can run Deshaun Watson out there next year. Because this is a guy who's lost all confidence. His confidence is shot. You know, you talk to people who are in and around that building, they'll tell you the confidence is shot. It's not there.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't have it, and look what he is. I mean, if you look at the tape, look at the All-22, he's turned into a one-read quarterback, right? If the first read's not there and the check down's not there,
He runs.
He starts running in circles. Yep. And that doesn't – and this is not a great offensive line. I'm not saying it is, but it's not as bad as Deshaun's made it look.
No, and obviously it's helped getting Wyatt Teller back in there as well.
If I can interrupt, you did have a really rough game on Sunday.
Yeah,
he had
did.
a rough game.
No, he did. Yeah, but you could tell. I mean, when the Jameis game, though, the Jameis Baltimore game,
absolutely,
you could tell it seemed even after the second check down read, not that Deshaun wasn't running for the sake of running, but there were definitely instances where the pocket broke down under 2 seconds and he had to go.
Right.
We saw Jameis have 3, 4, sometimes even 5 seconds, it seemed like, to throw the ball. Not making excuses for Deshaun's play in the slightest, but I do think that did have a little bit of a say in Jameis's performance.
Well, absolutely,
for sure.
And I'll agree with you there. I'll also agree with you. I think it's easier for guys to block for a quarterback who they know where he's going. When your quarterback's running in circles behind your line, it's hard for the line to block because they can't adjust. Versus Jameis is more that pure pocket passer. We saw last week, even if you look at the tape a couple times, he should have probably taken off. He didn't.
Yeah.
He's more, I want to step in the pocket and just sling it.
Which it goes back to what we were saying during week 3, week 4 of the season, what a lot of the Cleveland fans were saying in the area was, if we're going to stink, can we just be fun at least? Can we take chances? Can we do whatever? Not stink and have our quarterback going 15-17 with all these check down passes that eventually lead to just field goals because you can't throw it 10 yards down the field.
Right. Absolutely. So looking at it, if you want to, let's take it, from a 10,000, God, you know what I want to say, 10,000 feet in the air view, looking at the Browns' overall picture.
Outside looking in.
Okay. So they're 2-7. Jameis as of this recording, was not traded today. And there was some rumors that maybe they would if they can get something for him. What are you going to get for him? That was up in the air.
Yeah.
All that. So let's take a look at this. Looking the rest of the way, you're 2-7. Do you play Dorian Thompson-Robinson to see what you have in him for next year, or do you let Jameis Winston? Obviously, they made their decision. As of now, they're going to keep letting Jameis play.
Yeah.
But if you're Kevin Stefanski instead of Kevin Shagru, what are you doing? Do you think it's proper to play Dorian Thompson-Robinson, or do you let Jameis play? Because the other thing to look at is there's a lot of veterans on this team still. Even though you traded Big Z today, still a lot of veterans. This is the most expensive roster in the NFL, as we know. So the veteran's going to quit if you play DTR. They might quit even if you do play Jameis.
Yeah. See, this is where this is pretty divided amongst the fan base. And I will say I would roll with Jameis, and the reason being I want to know that the guys that we bring back next year on the offensive line, the receivers, whatever it might be, they potentially have faith in him if he's our starter next year. I don't have faith DTR is a long-term play for this team. I think if they're going into the draft and, Stefanski or Barry falls in love with one of these quarterbacks, that you have a veteran in the locker room that's been there.
Interesting. You say Stefanski or Barry. Do we know that those are the guys going to be here to make that pick?
I think
Stefanski's
going to be here regardless. I don't know if Haslam's going to try to force a shotgun marriage or something with another general manager. But I think Stefanski's going to be here regardless. I mean, the 4 years he's been here, half the time he's won a Coach of the Year award. I think it's tough to say when you've gotten the worst quarterback play in the NFL. Through the first 6-7 weeks at that point, to blame it on Stefanski and get him out of here. I'm not doing that just yet.
Well, I agree with where you're coming from, but it is the Browns. Oftentimes, we know how impatient the Haslams have gotten. This is the longest they've given any regime, a chance basically. And if we're looking at it fairly, Andrew Berry's stunk in the draft.
He's been horrible.
I mean, he has really, really messed up a lot of key draft picks. And then, oh, by the way, you haven't had that many draft picks because you gave Houston, the entire freight load of the entire train load, cargo load for Deshaun Watson. So it's tough.
Which I don't mean to interrupt you, but it's funny because we never heard about his draft record really until the first 4 or 5 weeks of this year. I feel like we haven't looked back and said, we've looked back and said Jedrick Wills hasn't been as good of a top 10 as a top 10 tackle or a top 10 pick, excuse me.
Well, Jedrick Wills is a straight up bust, and there's
he's horrible.
There's no two ways about it. Newsom's fallen off compared to the way you look he used to play. Martin Emerson's had a down year after 2 really good years to start his career, and that looked like a third-round pick that was pretty good for a while. I mean, you just start looking at all the picks, you add them up. I mean, the one thing, if we want to look at his bright spot and who might actually help him look a little bit better, how about the play of Cedric Tillman
Cedric
lately?
Tillman's been great.
3 straight weeks.
He's been great.
He's been pretty awesome, and that after 10,000 receivers, he might have finally drafted one that's worth a damn.
Yeah, he might have. I mean, also you got to look at his second round, excluding Michael Hall because that's a kind of a TBD still.
Right, because of suspension. We haven't seen much this year.
Yeah, so, but if you look at his second round picks, Grant Delpit and JOK, he's absolutely hit on big time.
Yeah, I mean, JOK might be his singular best draft pick he's made.
Yeah, I agree.
I just don't know. And that's the thing. Why you hear a lot of people, let's tank. I don't like the idea of tanking because I don't think there's a quarterback in this draft worth tanking for. And that's just my opinion. And I know that's an old school, old school football opinion is to win games. I don't know if Barry's going to be making the pick. B, when he has had picks to make, we just talked about it, they haven't been successful. And C, is there a quarterback worth taking at the top of this draft? We don't know. At this point, their best chances might be to, I hate to say it, to run it back with Deshaun, who's not going to be ready till probably Halloween at the earliest. DTR is going to be here probably because he's under contract one way or another. And James is a free agent. And if he plays well, somebody might pay him more money than the Browns could afford to pay him because we know that we're in cap hell.
Yeah. I mean... Going back to the quarterback class, so I do have to dive into the tape. That sounds like Hugh Jackson looking at the tape.
Yeah, no, you do, though.
I do, though. No, because it's been so long since we've actually sat down and tried to evaluate these top NFL draft quarterback
been 6
prospects.
years.
It's been a long time.
It's been 6
I mean, we got
years.
Baker in 2018. I mean, it seemed like every year that I had known you to that point, meeting you in 2015, we were talking about what quarterback we're going to draft. Oh my God, did you watch that Cal game, Jared Goff? Did you watch? You know,
Yes.
we were always talking quarterbacks, and then we drafted Baker, didn't have to worry about it, and now it's like, oh yeah, you know, that Dwayne Haskins kid from, you know, Ohio State. Do you think he's going to be any good? I don't know. I mean, you watched the Ohio State games, I didn't, but we're talking about Kyler Murray. What do we think?
Right.
I don't know. I didn't watch a lot of Oklahoma.
Right,
You know,
exactly.
like
But I don't know. I mean, I keep hearing Cam Ward's name come up, but
that's the one I'm hearing too.
I don't know. I'd have to look at more Cam Ward. I mean, and that the thing is, as a Browns fan, that sucks that we're back there, that we got to look
Yeah.
at tape. Nobody wants to be doing that. You know, so ideally, I don't know. But to answer back to the initial question, because, you know, we got off topic, which that's going to happen.
Right.
And, okay, whatever. But to answer the initial question, I give Jameis a couple more weeks. If they keep losing games, then eventually at some point maybe you'd make the switch to DTR by maybe let's say
Yeah.
by Thanksgiving, because
Sure.
Dorian Thompson-Robinson's a guy who has kind of been screwed by the Browns, in my opinion, right? Because every time that he seems to be started, it's on short notice. He also is a guy who beat the Steelers in a big game that we needed
Huge
last
game
year.
last year.
He was playing well in Denver before Baron Browning knocked him into the third dimension with a concussion where he's bleeding from his ear. Then he comes in garbage time in Houston. He tears a or a torn hip or something. So, right, the one early concern I have on Dorian Thompson-Robinson is he played 5 games. He's been hurt 3 times. Because then you had the finger this year.
Yeah, well, I mean, we knew that when we drafted him, though. We knew it was a small, shifty guy. If he gets hit, he's going to be leveled.
Right. But I think I've seen enough DTR that I'm not saying that I think he's probably the long-term answer. I think that's way, way too short-sighted to say. But DTR is a guy who I've liked what I've seen enough that I almost want to see more. And if they keep losing games, what's the point at that point? You might as well put the kid out there, because at this point, even the veterans have to know the season's it's done.
It's over.
It's kaput.
Yeah, no,
it's put it in the rearview mirror.
I get that. The only reason I take kind of that Winston stance of starting them, which it sounds like you do too, at least for the next few
Right,
weeks.
at least for the next few weeks.
Right.
See how things go. If
Yeah.
you're 2-10, 2-11, let Dorian mop up the season.
Yeah, you know, I'll take that stance with you too. I mean, if you fall to 2-10, you got 5 games left. Roll DTR out. See what you got there.
Yep, absolutely. So taking a look, today was the NFL trade deadline.
Yeah.
So the Browns had made a move that had been rumored for months and months and months. Well, I wouldn't say at least a month or so.
It seemed like as soon as Aiden Hutchinson got hurt, it was okay. One of the Lions trading for Zadarius Smith.
Right.
That's
And
seriously.
Dan Campbell had made comments a couple weeks back to, you know, we're probably getting a pass rusher. I can't tell you who yet. So I think it was just a matter of, hey, let's figure out the compensation. And what the
Right.
compensation ended up being was a 2025 fifth and a 2026 sixth are coming back to Cleveland. Zadarius and a 7th of, I don't remember the year, are going to Detroit.
I don't know either. I think it was. I'm almost certain it was a Darius on a 7th. I cannot remember.
No, it was
which.
a 7th. I just don't remember.
Yeah,
the
I don't
year
remember
the
what year it
7th.
is either. What do you think John Dorsey had a hand in that trade?
Oh, absolutely. I'm
I
sure
think he
he
did too, 100%.
I'm sure he did. And, you know, we talk about how Andrew Berry had a lot of bad free agent signings here. I'd say actually Zadarius was one of his better ones.
That was a trade.
This is a guy who
That was a trade with Minnesota.
Right. You're right. Yes, it was. That was a good trade because they didn't give up
Great
much
trade.
to get him. And
That and the Amari trade were basically the same. Compensation-wise, extremely similar, if I remember. I think it was, again, Zadarius and a pick for 2 picks, whatever it might have been.
Right. Needless to say, we all knew this one was coming. It kind of sucks to see it because we thought this was going to be a big year, and to see one of your premier pass rushers get traded is never really fun.
Well, not only was it expected to be a big year, I mean, Zadarius Smith is probably the best partner Myles Garrett has had in his entire Cleveland career.
I was thinking that today because I thought, wow, he really hasn't had great ones. Jadeveon was a bust here.
Big time.
I'd probably say his best 2 were Zadarius, and then going way back to his early Miles days was Agba.
Yeah, I was actually about to ask. Yeah, Agba was here for what, 2 years with them, or was it 3?
I think it was.
I forget if
I want to say
Agba was-
2.
Yeah, I
wanna
forget
say
if
2.
Agba was a 15 or 16 draft pick.
He was a 16. So
Okay, it would have been maybe 3 years. Oh no, because we traded him. We
Before-
traded him for Eric Murray.
yes, before
Wasn't it?
18, yes. So either way, okay, regardless,
Yeah.
Za'Darius was here. He was Miles' best partner. You talk to the guys in the locker room, and a lot of those guys didn't want Z to go because Z was a good leader on that team, and he was a good
Yeah.
leader on that defense, and he was a professional. He's won a lot in his career. He's played a lot of meaningful football in his career, and good for him. He gets to play some more this year, and quite honestly, he's going to the NFC favorite in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean the Lions are. I mean, if I were to claim a team outside of the Browns, it'd be the Lions right now.
It's hard not to
just
root for
because
those
they
guys.
are. Well,
They're
not only
fun, man.
not only are they
They're
good,
fun.
they are a blast. A lot of their talent's homegrown. Jared Goff has one of the best revival arcs that I can remember since being traded from the Rams, and everyone thought he was washed up and basically getting
I
used
agree.
goods at that point. And a lot of people gave Todd Gurley credit for that Super Bowl run that they had when they got to the Super
Right.
Bowl as opposed to Jared Goff.
Right.
So him coming all the way back in Detroit, it's been an awesome story to watch for him. It really has been.
Absolutely. And from the Browns end of it, the compensation, I was kind of hoping for a third and a fourth, but seeing what everybody else really got moved for today, it seems that was about they got fair market value.
Yeah, I didn't think a 3 was ever honestly in the question. I thought maybe a 4 if we threw in like a 5 or something could have been in play. And the only reason I say that is you see these basically any player in their early 30s being traded, it's for like at the highest a fifth round pick.
Right.
'Cause
So
you're getting because it's a rental.
and potentially his last trade as the
Yeah.
general manager of the Cleveland Browns.
Exactly.
Andrew Berry, I think, did a good job today. Hard to criticize. But like we said, it's the bye week, so its season's basically shot. But I don't want them to go into full tank mode. I try to win some games. Try to win some
Yeah.
games. Beat the Steelers. That'll make everybody around here happy. You should beat the Saints. They stink too. They traded Marshawn Lattimore today, by the way.
Yep, I did see that to the Commanders.
So, and that's where the Browns are. If this podcast continues, we'll have all off season to really dive into watching
Yeah.
stuff and the numbers and all that, because the dead cap hits a killer. You're kind of in a position you can't release him. You can't play this guy anymore either, though. He's shot. He's done. He's toast.
Yeah, done so.
It's done. And so are we talking about the Browns.
Easy.
So there's not much more good to say or, anything to say. And like we said, if you want to talk one more bright spot real quick, like I said, Cedric Tillman. It
Yeah,
looks
Cedric
good.
Tillman's been great. Can I also bring up one thing we were talking about the Andrew Berry blunders before we move on? Excuse me. He traded away Amon-Ra St. Brown. He traded away
Yes.
the Amon-Ra pick.
Yes, he did. Yes,
He's
he
been.
did. Yes, he
The
did.
draft has been bad.
It's been real bad. And people, I hear some Andrew Berry defenders, well, he hasn't had much to work with. That's his own problem, too, because he traded the moon, the stars, and the earth for
Exactly.
a bum quarterback. So let's talk and wrap this thing up. How about a little college football?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me bust out those rankings again.
The
'cause I
rankings came out today.
didn't memorize all of them.
Yes.
So
This is our first 12-team playoff. I think that I really didn't have too many complaints so far.
yeah, honestly, I mean, looking at it right now, I don't have any complaints really. I mean, I think you could have potentially swapped Texas and Penn State at 5 and 6. Texas being ranked 5, Penn State at 6. I could have seen a potential swap there. The AP poll had Notre Dame at 8. Notre Dame's my college football team, as I live in Buckeye country.
Right.
AP poll had him at 8. The college football playoff rankings, and honestly, I will say probably rightfully so, are holding that Northern Illinois loss in very high criticism. Clearly, having Notre Dame at 10.
Well, and that's fair.
Well, that's
You
absolutely
lost to a
fair.
MAC team.
Absolutely, a MAC team at home. It was a horrendous loss. But I was very interested to see where they were going to go with Ohio State, Georgia, at 2 or 3. I do think they got it right with Ohio State at 2. Ohio State's got the best loss in the country. They've lost to the number 1 team at their field by
Right.
1 point.
Right.
You're clearly the second best team in the country at that point.
Right.
Clearly, in my
I
opinion.
completely agree. And I know we disagree on this, but looking at the Buckeyes, through the Buckeyes lens, Ryan Day needed that win. Big time.
Oh, he did. He absolutely
he
needed
did.
it.
He was feeling the pressure. Has done great in the big games to go on the road against the number 3 team in the country. And I know some, Ryan Day haters will still say, well, he always beats Penn State. Doesn't matter. They were ranked third.
Yeah.
You got to play who's on your schedule. You went to Happy Valley where you have, as a program, you're 8-1 in the last 9 games. And, Ryan Day should be given a little bit of credit for that because when it was 10-0, it wasn't looking good.
It wasn't.
And, that not Ryan Day's fault. Will Howard threw a pick 6, but nonetheless, Ryan Day's the coach. He's responsible. They're down 10-0. And to come back and have that defense play like that, credit to Jim Knowles, too, the defensive coordinator. But boy, did the Buckeyes need that win, and they got it. And like you said, they are fairly ranked at number 2.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was a very fun battle to see too between the quarterbacks. Drew Aller being from Ohio and wanting to go to Ohio State, and Will Howard growing up wanting to go to Penn State.
Right.
I thought it was a very, very interesting duel that they had. Thought it was cool to see. I was kind of rooting for Aller to pull it off. I'm not gonna lie. Which, speaking of him, I mean, somebody who came into not to steer this completely back to like NFL draft talk or whatever, but potential quarterbacks coming out. I mean, this guy was looked at as like a top 5 to 10 pick coming out, and
he's had a rough year.
They're saying maybe second round now.
He's had a rough year, and that's a kid from around here down in Medina. You know? But
stud.
Interestingly enough, like we said, they needed that win, they got it. And James Franklin, if people want to talk about Ryan Day not winning the game, when did this guy ever win the big game?
No, I mean, I remember us being back at college watching Ohio State, Penn State. I believe it was in Penn State, and it was like 4th and 5 or 4th and 3 or whatever, and they ran a read option and got blown up.
Yeah.
And that was the end of the game. I remember looking at you going, are you kidding me? Like, that's the play that you draw up?
Right. And
even they had the Saquon Barkley. Yeah.
Saturday they had some chances too. And, and I see Penn State fans, that was a debacle at the end there. Some of the players not doing the alma mater, James Franklin getting booed off the field. But, I don't know what's going to happen there. It's kind of hard to get rid of a guy, when he's done as well as he has, but he can't win the big game. I don't know what's going to happen there. But excited for this first 12-team playoff, though, and the way it should play out. Very interesting.
Yeah, I was, too. I'm going to see if I can find it again, but I saw based off of what those rankings were, what exactly the actual playoff format would be. And it was cool to see, teams that would never get a bye week being ranked like in the top 4. It was really cool. I'm going to see if I can find it again. But it's going to be very interesting. It made me, I didn't realize how it was going to be set up, I'll be honest, until probably about week 2 or 3 of this year when I saw people saying this is what it would look like, and I started to put together how it would actually look, which makes me, obviously there's financial reasons for this happening, but why the Texas and Oklahoma's left and why the Oregon's left. When if you win that conference, you're looking at a bye week to get to round 2, and it just makes that road that much more challenging. I'm going to see if I can find that.
And while you take a look at that, I mean, looking at some of the games this week, this should be interesting because Georgia plays Ole Miss, and Georgia did not play very well against Florida. I know they came out with the win, but I wasn't really impressed. They had kind of rough showing there in the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. Another game that I think college football fans will want to keep their eye on, LSU and Alabama, always a good game, 15 LSU, 11 Alabama. Those are 2 6-2 teams. The loser of that probably no shot at the playoff. Penn State, a home game against Washington. They have to win that. They have to win that if they want any chance. And looking at this,
I think Penn State can squeak in with 2 losses still. I don't think it's a lock by any means. I think they're probably a fringe. They're probably in the 11 to 14 range with 2 losses. But I still think that they can sneak in with 2 losses.
Yeah, I think you might be right. I still think because of with the fan base and where the pressure is on Franklin, they got to win that game.
Yeah,
that's just my opinion. Oregon plays Maryland. Notre Dame, looking at these teams in the playoff, they play Florida State. That's a must-win for them.
Yeah, I mean, it absolutely is a must-win, and that's a game that we looked at before the season, Florida State being ranked 10, as a huge potential playoff implication game, and now it's basically Notre Dame's got to win to stay in the mix.
Right, absolutely. So that should be interesting stuff to watch, and I saw Miami plays number 4 Miami plays Georgia Tech. Maybe we'll have to actually look at some Cam Ward tape, see how the kid plays.
Yeah, we'll have to check out Cam Ward, I think, yeah.
See how the kid plays in that one. But I think that's pretty much everything we wanted to cover.
Yeah, at least for this first episode. Now, if you're listening, just for future reference, we're probably going to end up having this as a Tuesday or Wednesday film/recording night. So apologize in advance if there's something that we missed by the time this would be released. Hopefully on Thursday mornings in the future. We don't know how these first few episodes are going to go. But yeah, hope to record these Tuesday, Wednesdays, and hopefully drop them by Thursday morning.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's been fun, and we hope that this turns into something successful that you guys out there enjoy listening or watching or whatever you may do. I think we're all good here. So hopefully, first successful show. We enjoyed doing it. Hopefully, you enjoy listening. Yeah. For Kevin, myself, producer Derek, take it easy, everybody.
Take it easy. Thanks.